Welcome to Pivot and Thrive. I'm Karin McCarthy, host of the Pivot and Thrive community for small business owners. We come together to make better decisions about running a business and leverage growth opportunities through collaboration. We are recording today on Abenaki land, and I'm so glad that you're here to join us for Audience Insights for Entrepreneurs, 3 places to look for customer data that will make your business more profitable with Becca Brown. Becca is the founder of Uppercase Industries, a consumer insights and marketing strategy company. Becca, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really, really glad that you're here and hosting, and so excited to learn from you today. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm really excited to dive into our content, and thanks everybody for joining us on this sunny, blustery day here in Vermont or wherever you're tuning in from. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we have lots of meaty information to cover today. Everybody see that all right? Awesome. So today we are diving into audience insights for entrepreneurs. And as we get started, so I'm just going to give myself a little bit more of an introduction so you know a bit about my background as we go through. So I'm Becca. I'm the founder and CEO of Uppercase Industries. As Karin said, this is a consumer insights and marketing strategy company. And our approach at Uppercase is to help guide clients through a simple insights gathering process, really help them cultivate an intimate knowledge of their customers or their audience in a short amount of time, and then use what we learn to craft marketing strategies that really work. You know, we like to say we take clients to go from guessing to knowing when it comes to their marketing strategy. We think we're awesome at what we do because we're driven by a genuine curiosity for humankind. And that human-centered approach really sits at the core of what we do. We kind of feel like the marketing research and industry overall is really heavily weighted towards big data these days. And while we love to geek out on a spreadsheet, we always remind ourselves and our clients to come back to that real human experience and uncover those human insights that help you understand what's going on in your audience's real life and then can help you fit in. I'm also a Vermonter. This is a picture of my little crew here, although the kids are a little bit older than this picture. I love to cook and garden. I sometimes think about getting chickens. I have my 2 little kiddos, and I also really believe in helping entrepreneurs grow in a way that lets them improve the world with what they do or make, and also leave space to fuel your personal dreams. So I'm coming to you live from Burlington, Vermont right today. As Karin mentioned, we'd love for you to take a quick second to tune in, turn the phone over, stash in the next room, grab your pen, oops, that chat prompt is not right. Sorry, that was a typo. But we will be asking questions throughout. This is one I wanted to share with you. Make sure you have your chat box open and visible. And we have a special bonus available. Anyone who screenshots your favorite part of the presentation and shares it on Instagram or your favorite channel, tagging us just so we can see that you did it, will get a bonus survey writing and social media surveying guide that we'll send out after the session. So that's a fun little incentive for you there. And we would love for everybody that is here to just introduce yourself quickly in the chat. I always like to hear where folks are logging in from, anything specific that you are hoping to learn, and also what your business is. So I'll pause just for a quick second while you all can type in the chat if you so desire. And while folks are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and share our agenda. So today we're going to cover kind of the main framework for growth that I use when really doing any type of client project. And then we'll cover the three places that we talked about in the title to look for that consumer data. Each one is going to be accompanied by a case study to demonstrate how you might use that information. and then we'll save time for some Q&A. Just to put a little bit of a bug in your ear, I can definitely, if there is somebody on the call who wants to be a guinea pig and either, go ahead and like screen share your Google Analytics and we can dive into your own data and do a little bit of a hot seat. I'm open to doing that if anyone is up for it. So think about that as we go along. And we have some great answers rolling in the chat. Let's see, we have Christina with an entertainment and media legal company. Awesome. Well, those are two really, and fine art photo sales too. Henry from Tunbridge, outpatch.org. Karen is here, and Dr. Andrea Grayson. Good to see you, Andrea. Helping people quit sugar. And Heather from Root Marketing, looking for data resources. Awesome. And Vterra Farms, nano encapsulated CBD. Wow, what an interesting group of folks we have here. Thanks everybody for sharing that. Awesome. Okay, so diving in. So this Venn diagram does a really nice job of explaining just kind of how I think about consumer insights and how my recommended framework for thinking about it in general before we dive into the tactics. So, we hear as entrepreneurs, we tend to be a passionate bunch, right? We love what we do and we love to tell the world about it. So that is really where this green circle comes in with your brand values. This is where you have your own special way of doing things, your own unique take on your industry, and your special way of delivering it. The business opportunity, we're not going to focus on this a ton today, but this is kind of just the business basics, right? I like to use the pizza restaurant analogy to demonstrate this. So, in your brand values, if you're a pizza restaurant, maybe you are offering a special, Italian DOC style of pizza. The business opportunity means that you're opening your pizza restaurant, in a city that has a population that could support a restaurant, right? It can't be, population of 20 or else that's not going to work. And also probably you're choosing a block that doesn't have 5 other pizza restaurants already on it. So those are kind of your basics of, is there the population and opportunity to sustain a business? And then comes our human meter challenge. So this is, the places that your audience overlaps with the value that you offer. So, you need to have an audience that's interested in eating pizza, right? And then if you're offering Italian DOC pizza, you need to understand which part of that value proposition, so to speak, is most interesting and valued by your audience. So I really work to uncover this overlap in the Venn diagram right here on the right side. Because if I'm over here obsessing over the dough and my customers really just care about the cheese, then we're not overlapping, right? We need to understand that they care about cheese and I can shift my message to talk about my house-made mozzarella, and then we're rocking and rolling. But a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get stuck in those little kind of geeky areas that we love to go super deep on, and we're kind of just speaking an entirely different language than our customers. And so that's really what we try to explore with customer insights and data analysis. Any questions so far? Awesome. Feel free to jump in at any time with questions. Okay, and so one of my favorite online leaders in the kind of business and entrepreneurial spaces, Rachel Rogers. She's awesome. If you haven't ever checked her out, she's all about helping women, especially women of color, develop more wealth through their business. And she likes to say, geek out with your peers, not with your customers, right? Your customers are where you got to keep it simple. And if you have friends who are also in business, like go geek out with them and do it on your own time. Don't do it on your marketing channels. So I'd love to hear if anyone has experience with that. Feel free to share that in the chat. I definitely tend to do this. I'm guilty as charged. Being really, the nature of our business is really geeky. So I love to really get down in the data. And sometimes that is just not what my customers want to hear. They want to say, okay, she's got it handled. And I just want to know the top level results. So yeah, Henry says definitely guilty of geeking out with the customers. It's tricky. It is hard not to when you love what you do. But That's why we have all these great techniques to help you balance that. So when we're on the hunt for insights, the first of the three places that I like to look is right on the website. And Marissa, yes, nano encapsulation is a tough one to swallow without going into geek mode. I love that. Yeah, that would probably be a great place to brainstorm on like how could we say nano encapsulation in a way that doesn't use that word or simplifies it for people. So I really recommend as our first step identifying your top 10 most visited website pages. This is and these are all tactics that I typically do with clients, in the really first step to help establish a baseline of what's really going on. Because the other difficulty for entrepreneurs, in addition to being kind of hyper passionate, is that we often just have all these assumptions baked into what we're doing since we're so in it. And consulting the data can really help to bust those assumptions if they need to be busted. So if you take a look at your 10 most visited web pages, they're really going to tell you a story. It could, if you have a consumer products company, it may show you, your most popular products. If you have a more content-based company, and maybe it's your blog posts and those top 10 pages. If you're getting a lot of posts or a lot of visits to your about section, that could be sending you a signal that your customers really want more of that story and more of you, more of the passion behind your business. If you're getting a lot of FAQs, maybe that's a signal that you need to build in those FAQ questions earlier in your sales funnel, right? If people are having tons of questions and they have to always be visiting that page, that's a bit of a red flag that maybe you could address some of those issues earlier. Those top 10 pages really tell a story. It's also really great to look at those pages over time, right? So I like to look at them, start out with like the last 12 months, but then check quarter by quarter. And that's easy enough on either your Google Analytics or whatever hosting service you're using on your website to change the dates. And then you can see if there's seasonality, maybe in the springtime, people are looking for certain content. In the fall or the holiday season, maybe they're looking for other things. You can really use what you learn to improve your message. If there's something surprising that you are seeing people gravitate towards, you can just use that as feedback and implement it either into your email strategy or your social media strategy, or if you have a B2B style company, even I've used this to help clients improve B2B sales conversations. The points that you're making with clients when you show up in front of them and you're pitching your services, you can kind of use what you learn to make a more compelling argument. So bot traffic generally affect analytics. I don't see a lot of issues with that. Where I do see bot issues is often in email signups, and I do recommend keeping an eye on your email signups. If you're getting a ton of signups that don't, people subscribing to your list that don't look right, you certainly want to take a look at that and add some intelligence there to fix that. That's a great question. So a case study on when this worked, a client project that this worked really well for. So we had a wellness blogger and entrepreneur who was really interested in starting her own line of products, but she just was struggling with how to focus. And we had this great conversation and she just said, there's really no pattern, it's willy-nilly. She had blog posts and she also sold things on an affiliate basis. And she just said, I can't tell why people are buying what, and there's no pattern. So she was really, she didn't know if I should do a line of cookware and pots and pans or toothpaste or anything kind of in between, which is obviously a huge range of items that we needed to narrow down. So what we did is analyzed her top performing blog posts, and there was really a clear pattern. Within the top 10 to 20, we were seeing a lot of posts all about the skin and hair care categories. And so she really took that data to heart, and she now has a successful line of hair products. And so that's a great example of kind of that from guessing to knowing factor, right? If she had just gone with her gut and developed a line of kitchen tools, that would have been probably a big fat flop, right? Because people just weren't interested in that. So it's really, I would, in my perfect world, entrepreneurs are checking this type of thing every quarter or every month, but especially good moments to dig into a little bit of data are in the lead up to an important moment for your business, right? So you have a new product launch coming up and you want to understand which direction to go in. You have a new big marketing campaign, or a lot of times I work with clients who are ahead of a rebrand and they want to make sure that the new look and feel that they're developing actually resonates with their customers. So, we were able to identify and categorize that top performing content. She really heard what her customers were the most interested in. She identified the new products, which were the right products to launch, as well as the messaging that would best accompany them. And she was able to successfully launch that new line. Anyone have any questions so far? Awesome. Okay, we'll keep moving right along. Okay, we have somebody new joining. I hope it's okay. I'm just going to let anyone in if they're requesting to join, because I'm the host now. Great, welcome. All righty. So moving into opportunity number 2, sales patterns. Now this is a big one, and I have to say a lot of times this seems obvious, like, okay, I'm selling stuff, of course I know what I'm selling, but you would not believe how many times business owners will tell me what they sell and what the number one thing they sell is, and then we go look under the hood and it's just not the same thing as what they say. So it's really important that you know this backwards and forwards. So what is your number one selling product or service? I do this analysis in my own business. About 3 years ago, we were doing more content focused work, and the research piece of the business was smaller, and I looked at the numbers and I said, you know what, I want to see that number change. And we really focused on growing. Just because you see a pattern doesn't mean you have to say, okay, that's just the way it's going to be. If you have a feeling that there's sort of like a sleeper product that you think should be doing better, but it's not, seeing those numbers is a really great motivator to say, okay, you know what, this product is really awesome. And I want people, like, I know it's life changing. So I want people to buy it. And then that gives you a really clear path to shift your marketing away from the thing that you're less excited about, and at least see if you can make some growth happen in the area that you are really excited about. Alternatively, maybe you say, okay, well, this doesn't look how I thought it looked, but I actually think that this is great. How, people are buying something that I wouldn't have expected, but that feels really easy and intuitive to me. So we're just going to double down on this. And those other products, like, sure, if somebody comes through the door wanting that, we'll have it, but we're going to focus our efforts on this other area. And the potential for growth in just that mindset shift alone of focusing in is huge. So you want to look at, your first, second, third product, best selling product or service. And I like to look at this, across different timelines. So definitely, again, past 12 months, worth looking at past 3 months, worth comparing past 3 years if you have the data. And it can be a pretty simple spreadsheet download. You might have to manipulate the numbers a little bit, but it really should not be a project like this. Shouldn't be a project that takes more than an hour or 2 to complete. If it does take longer than that, then you can just know that you're setting yourself up for a much easier experience the next time around. And it's worth taking the rigor to kind of like, categorize your different sales areas. So you want to also look at, the dollar amounts and the units sold, figure out if there's seasonality within this. Same thing with the content. You want to understand if there's seasonality, if you're noticing, like a Q4 jump is a huge something that happens across a lot of different industries for the holiday season. You want to look at when that starts to happen, because you may be having your holiday messaging come out a little bit too late. So if you see that bump start to happen maybe in early November, maybe you start that Q4 campaign in September instead of October, and that could have a huge impact on your success rates. So all these numbers really help to tell you what your customers want and when they want it. And then, so we have a question: how do you determine possible sleeper items that have potential? That's a great question. So I would say there are kind of two ways. First of all, and actually this, I'll leave the second one to be answered with the case study I'm about to share. But the first way to tell is just your own preferences, right, as the owner in the business. So if this was what I was saying with my own business, I was having these really transformational results with our research work, and the clients were loving it. It was also, I just personally was enjoying it because it's based in numbers, whereas a lot of other marketing disciplines that I've had experience in are just feel a little bit more wishy-washy and hard to prove the ROI of. So I had all those things working for our research kind of expertise track in the Uppercase business. And so I just said to myself, I'm going to see what we can do with that. And we ran with it, and it has really become the true specialty of our whole company. So that, listening to that instinct worked. You of course have to say, you also have to be willing to admit that you're wrong, right? If you test that out and you're getting no takers on what your theory of the business is, then you have to say, okay, actually, no, I'm going to go back and just give the people what they want at a certain point. And then the second way to figure out sleeper hits is by seeing the products that are selling better than you think, right? So this is a great example of that with a company called Real Plans. It's a meal planning app. And when we started working together, the founders, and the reason they had founded the company was because in their own family, they had several food allergies and just had difficulty doing their meal planning because of those restrictions. So they just sort of assumed that they were serving allergen eaters, so to speak, peanut allergy, shellfish, whatever it was. But then when we went to look at their sales data, they sold meal plans by different types. And so one type was allergy, one type was paleo, one was Whole30, gluten-free, etc. So they were very data savvy, but they just weren't looking at the data in this way. They were looking at other things like general downloads, and they just weren't dialing into the category by category area. And what we did was just look at each category kind of in a big old pie chart. And it turns out it was something like 75% of the business was driven by paleo eaters. So you can imagine the marketing shift that you would go through. It's you talk to those two audiences in a totally different way. So this is the second kind of way to figure out the sleeper items. Sometimes they're just sort of hiding in plain sight. You just haven't looked yet because you're busy selling, you're busy doing the thing that fixing the app that you are selling or delivering the service in whatever way that you're doing. So, we were really able to identify and categorize their main product sales. We came up with a few hypotheses for growth. We think that we could draw even more paleo eaters in with XYZ tactic, and maybe double down in these other ways. We then went on to do interviews with some real live consumers, and if we hadn't done this initial analysis, we would have collected this group of 10 women who we did one-on-one interviews with, all based on allergens, right? So that was also a key step in making sure, and that could be quite an investment to do that type of research. So we made sure we included paleo eaters in that, which worked really well. And so they were able to prioritize and streamline their content. They also brought in more partners that were focused on paleo eating, and they doubled their business in the next year and the year following. So this was like a really runaway success. That does not happen every time. Any questions so far? Awesome. I'll keep moving us along. So our third area to look for insights is, this is a little bit of a double, but I'm saying that your FAQ, either your FAQ, and this is not your FAQ section on the website, it's really what people are asking you the most often. And I also like to mention the search bar. If you are like a product based company that has a search bar on your website, or really any company that has any kind of search bar on your website, it's sort of two sides of the same coin, right? Because your search bar is sort of the equivalent of, like if you have a vintage shop and everybody is walking in the door asking for cutoff jeans, if you translate that to the online experience, they would be putting that cutoff jeans in the search bar. So, the key point here is where there are questions, there is opportunity, right? And people are asking questions about things that they're interested in. It's not always, where's the bathroom, right? If you're in a restaurant, they're asking, where did this duck come from? Or what, farm did you get this lettuce from? Things like that. They're expressing interest. So, that's the fact that they're kind of raising their hand to you is a signal that you should pay attention to. So it's worthwhile just to kind of like take 20 minutes and do some brainstorming of, what are the questions, either when you're in a kind of customer situation, or you can also, the kind of, my stepfather is an economist and he calls it the data of walking about. Like when you're just out in your life talking about what you do to people, what do they ask you about your job? That's a great place to start as well if you have a smaller audience, and you don't have like, the other obvious place to look is your kind of email helpline or your phone line if you have a larger company that is fielding requests from people on a regular basis. Then we really just want to think about how we can be more proactive around that topic. So if questions are falling into certain categories, that are more interesting than like how long is your shipping process, right? You can dive a little bit deeper and maybe show a peek behind the scenes or tell a story about how you learn to do what you do. And you can also use this information to steer people towards an upsell. If everybody is asking for, if we go back to the real plans example, if everybody is asking a particular question about how to actually go shop and buy the food that's on the meal plan, maybe we implement a partnership with like an Instacart kind of thing that people get access to for an additional fee. So those are all like insights within that category that you can then turn around and help make your business more profitable. And the case study for this is a company that is a one-stop shopping marketplace for parents. So they really wanted to be, they want to be the destination for affluent parents, kind of like the anti-Amazon, where you can go search and buy anything that you need for your kids. But they were unsure if their customers thought of it that way. So, they're really trying to figure out, what is it? We want to be known as this one-stop shop, but what are we really known for? So we turned to their search bar, and after analyzing the top 100 terms, there are two clear categories. So there are four categories that we're considering were toys, apparel, furniture, and gear. And they are really interested in being a comprehensive source for all of them. And so we noticed that most people were really just searching for the toys and apparel. So, we just kind of assigned all the top 100 search terms to one of those categories. And really we uncovered a pattern that was pretty inconsistent with the image they're striving to portray. So, we're still in the middle of this project, so they haven't addressed it yet, but they are empowered to bridge that gap. And they really know they need to emphasize these other categories, which are furniture and baby gear, like high chairs and things like that. So that was a great example too. Anyone have any more questions? Great. Awesome. Well, this is, that was most of the content that I wanted to cover. So we have plenty of time for live Q&A or anyone who wants to pull up their own analytics and do a little live analysis right now, which is a great opportunity to do that. If anyone would like to be the guinea pig or ask questions about your own business.
I would love to ask one question while the person who's going to be volunteering for this great insight service that you're offering identifies themselves. But my question is, when you find this sort of information where people have maybe their own perception of what their business offers and the service and brand that they believe themselves to be conveying, and then when these insights or this data reveals a new insight about what it is that they actually offer in the marketplace, how do you have those conversations with people? What does that rebrand process look like for them? Does it necessarily mean that they're following the customers to what it is that the customers are opting in for, or is it about changing marketing to bring customers along the journey of what they intend to be offering?
That's a great question, and that's a very delicate part of my job, as you can imagine. So the answer is it depends on a lot of things. It depends, and one of the most important being the personality of the entrepreneur. So a great example, and so a lot of times I encounter the question, which I sort of call the Henry Ford or the Steve Jobs question. And side note, I'm always on the lookout for women who say interesting things about consumers as well. So I could quote a lady boss if I could. But Henry Ford is famous for saying if you would ask people what they wanted back in the early 1900s before the car was invented, they would have said a faster horse, right? And so it is absolutely our job as entrepreneurs to be the innovators and the forward thinkers. And I mean, let's be honest, like that's what's so fun about what we do. So it's not to say, I never recommend that you change your entire business premise on the basis of a customer survey that comes back, in an unexpected way. But you do have to be, it does help certainly to be honest. And it's usually you're making those decisions not at your fundamental business structure or kind of not at the business plan level, but more at the marketing level, right? So I have another client I worked with for a long time who they have a farm to table online grocery service. So kind of like an online CSA or a farmer's market. And they were insistent that their customer base was young families, and the founder just really wanted to sell to young millennials, which is a common thing. So never underestimate your 50s and 60s, buyers. That is a really powerful set if you have them. I always say you should really stick with them, but that's a side note. And so we did a core customer analysis for them and found out that we were really not serving young moms and dads. We were serving empty nesters. And it actually made sense based on a few key things. People who are empty nesters have more disposable income. They also have time to cook. And the food that this client was selling was really pretty culinarily oriented, right? It wasn't like pre-chopped, butternut squash, right? You're getting the whole squash. You got to peel the thing and, put it in the oven and all that. We recommended doubling down on that area, but in the end, he really felt like he still wanted to pursue the young millennials, and so you just made that the goal, right? You can always have the choice between the double down strategy, which is double down on who you already have, which I typically recommend at least giving that a shot, because I find in marketing, you always want to go with the momentum that's already existing rather than try to change consumer behavior, because that just ends up being a lot more expensive, right? But you also, if you don't like what you see and you want your target to be a different target, you certainly can get a clear picture of who you want it to be and then adjust your strategy accordingly. But it can be difficult, and I have to be, my approach is, it's at the end of the day, it's the entrepreneur's call. We make a recommendation, but there's often 2 or 3 potential business paths that could work. That's kind of the beauty of owning your own business. You get to decide. So there's plenty of room for that.
I
Awesome.
shared in the chat, but we can also turn off the recording if folks are interested in, doing the behind the scenes analysis, but maybe don't want that to be a part of the recording. That you can still have, we can still continue with that offer. If you would be more comfortable, we can certainly turn off the recording for that part of the session.
Yeah, that's certainly fine with me. And Marissa, I would say, if you're able to put your Google Analytics up on the screen, I can help you interpret them, but no pressure. I'm just picking on you because you answered in the chat.
Hi. I guess I would want to turn off the recording if we did that. Just because of our.
Yes, proprietary information, of course. Karin, you're on mute.
You think after 16 months I wouldn't be talking to myself on mute. So I'll pause the recording if that's something that you're comfortable moving forward with.
So yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Here we go.
Great. Awesome. Well, does anyone else have any questions as we wrap up our session together? This has been really great, and I really appreciate all of your participation. All right, well, I think we can close there. And please feel free to reach out anytime. My email is becca@uppercaseindustries.com, and I'm on social media, Instagram at @Beck_Brown. I'd love to get DMs as you all go through your insights gathering process, or if questions come up along the way. And I hope to keep in touch. And thank you again so much for having me on Vermont Collaborative Circle.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Becca. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and to have folks learn from you and really just think about more efficient ways that we can connect with our audience and grow our businesses. I really appreciate the insights you had to share and the I know it's an investment of everyone's time to be here. So thank you, folks who are joining in the audience. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you as well.
Likewise.
If folks haven't done so, I would suggest following Becca, Beck_Brown on Instagram. And don't forget to tag Becca and Vermont Collaborative Circle in your Instagram stories to get that extra freebie that Becca's offering. And I hope that you'll connect and think about other workshops and offerings that you would be interested in hosting or that you would look to participate and attend. We're always adding content to the calendar and really looking forward to offering meaningful information and support to business owners. Coming up, we have some exciting workshops, including on June 15th with Emily Ely, how to use your time like a CEO. That's at noon on Tuesday, the 15th of June. On Wednesday at 1, we have a roundtable with Main Street Alliance Vermont. They want to hear what business owners are experiencing and how they can help inform legislators about what support would really make a difference for you as a business owner. So the legislative session has closed, but the work continues, and they want to hear real stories about business owners and how you're persevering in this time and really what would support you. And then we have a Pivot and Thrive interview with Beth Krueger on June 17th at noon. In the Pivot and Thrive interview series, we look at business owners, we showcase business owners who are demonstrating creativity, collaboration, and resilience, and really just celebrating and uplifting small business owners for the journey they're on, and looking for ways that we can knit the small business community tighter and support each other in that process. So I thank you for the opportunity again to connect with you today. And I know I'm excited to go look into my Google Analytics and dig a little bit deeper, maybe fine tune some
Yay.
messaging. So Becca, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was lovely.